screwing around and start!
PointyStarVio here, and we're going to be doing a vampire profile. This is a completely different build than my old build that you'll see in the DevPro duels from a while ago. And just for an update of the channel, I'm going to be doing a different deck profile every single Monday. That way I can guarantee you'll be getting something every single week. I'm going to try and do this certain schedule that I've worked out, and I've worked out how I'm going to do it. So here's what it's going to be. First of all, we're going to be doing this vampire deck to start this all off. This is a very interesting build. I've been playing it a lot online. It's been playing it in real life now that I completely finished it, and it's really fun. The best part about the deck is the whole main deck can be foiled except for this card, and the extra deck can be foiled except for like 2. So without further ado, we can start. The first card we're playing is 3 copies of Vampire Duke. He's kind of what your deck revolves around. So when he is special summoned, you can basically send your opponent's card from deck to grave. A monster, spell, or trap. You generally call spell because if you call monster, like a lot of decks have monsters that they want in the grave. You can call trap, but whenever I do that, my opponent just happens to have the perfect trap. But it really depends on the matchup. If you're facing Burning Abyss, you never call spell, or you never call spell or monster. Like you have to call trap. If you're facing something like Shaddolls, you cannot call spell because they're going to send their good spell. So you got to be careful with this card. Vampires are fun to play, but I would not suggest using them against just the current top 2 of the top 3 decks. This did really well against Clifford because I was just able to send everything to the grave, and they can't do much when their cards keep getting sent to the grave. So that was helpful, but against stuff like Shaddol and Burning Abyss, you just don't get as much benefit from those because they love it when you send cards. So this card is kind of the main one. When it's normal summon, you can special summon a vampire from the grave, and that's good. Moving on, we are playing 3 copies of the Shadow Vampire. When this guy's normal summon, you can special summon one from your deck, but if you do, only that monster can attack this turn, which is not the biggest deal since you can just use him as a level 5 monster, since level 5 is what you're looking for. You can use artifacts in this deck if you really wish to, but I really prefer just using the vampire stuff because it's really fun this way. And what these guys do, so basically, all of them has 0 defense, but this card allows you to get your combos out really fast to make your XYZs, allowing you to hopefully win more and potential. And we are playing 2 copies of Vampire Lord. There's no real reason to play any other vampire higher level 5 or higher monster because these are all you'll need. You can get these cards into your possession rather fast with how this deck works, and this card is legitimately here just because we need more level 5 vampires. And every other one of the vampires it's kind of lackluster. So that is the level 5s. We are playing 3 copies of Vampire Sorcerer. This card is really good because when it's in the grave, you can banish it to normal summon a vampire without tributing. And if it's sent to the grave by an effect or battle or something like that, you can add a vampire from your deck to your hand. So it's really nice. You can add a vampire spell or trap as well, which we are running a couple of those. Moving on, we are playing 3 copies of Mezuki. When he's in the graveyard, you can banish him, special summon a vampire from grave, really any zombie from grave, so I have summoned himself. And he's just really nice because he lets you continue your plays, and just being able to free special summon Duke and just mill more of your opponent's cards to the graveyard is really nice for the deck. And you can just take your opponent's monsters, if you have them send big monsters, you can summon them back with your hand to your side using your XYZ. Now here are the non-zombie portion. We're playing 3 Raiden because he's a light monster and he's a miller, and we can get cards in the graveyard. Basically, every single card in this deck is fine in the graveyard. You don't like it when you mill your spell and traps, but it's perfectly fine if you mill your monsters, so that's good. It's searchable, and it is a tuner, but I personally don't play any synchros in here, but don't be afraid to. You have extra deck room. You can run as many synchros as you feel like after I show you the extra deck. And for other Lightsworns, we're playing 2 Lyla just to help against back row and such, since back row is a big problem, and we don't run very much back row in this deck, just because we like running some of the other spells. So, that is the Lightsworn. And then the last card we're running, or second to last monster we're running 3 Mathematician, because this lets us fuel our grave with the correct zombies and such. With just basically any of these cards we can put in the graveyard, and if we have a dark in the grave we can send a light, and as I just said, since we have a darks and lights, we are playing 1 copy of BLS. It's a really good card right now. This card might get banned, I don't really care if it does or doesn't, but it's cool because we can control our graveyard rather well with the Lightsworns and the Mathematicians and such, so we have a really high chances of being able to summon him, so it's really nice for the deck. A Mathematician is also a draw power, because summon him, dump your Mezuki, when he dies you draw a card. That's really, really nice, and you don't really care about that little bit of life points you'll pay there. For spells where you're playing 3 copies of Kingdom, this card's great because you can't get hurt by Ragnazero because it doesn't increase your attack until damage calc, and that's awesome. That means that you can just treat their number as 20 at all times, and then it's 25 right when it matters, and so your monsters don't lose. It lets you beat over things, and 25 and 3000 are just huge walls. Also, whenever a vampire card, or whenever a card, just in general, is sent from your opponent's deck to the graveyard, you can destroy something on the field. And because Duke is constantly going to be sending stuff to the graveyard, you're able to constantly just pop cards on the field. The only problem is it's mandatory, so you might end up having to pop this card. But it is worth it because most of the time you'll just be destroying your opponent's field and destroying their pendulum scale and such, which is really nice. Next, we are playing 3 copies of Book of Life. Banishing your opponent's cards in their graveyard is just too good right now, and the fact I can do it to re-summon a monster from my graveyard, it's just amazing. So this card is awesome for the deck. With how often we're hoping to get cards in the graveyard because of our Lightsworn, Mathematicians, and such, this is a really, really, really nice card for the deck. So I would strongly suggest playing 3 if you decide to build this deck yourself, or if you just decide to use this build, that is why it's really good. Moving on, the last 3 we're running is 3 Mystical Space Typhoon, just because we really do have to get through the back row. Back row is a big problem. A lot of your cards can just fight through it or survive through it, but this card helps us get through it, because there are a lot of cards, like there are a lot of back row we really got to be worried about sometimes, and being able to just hit it during your opponent's end phase and stuff, that's really, really good. Really good reason to keep running these. The last spells we are running, I'm actually running quite a few to be honest. We have 2 Rhoda for the Raiden, just because you don't want to... this card lets you deck thin, and drawing him it's good and bad, but this card lets us get him faster, as well as deck thin, as well as we're running 1 charge, because it lets us mill, and it lets us get Lyla, which is something really nice. Instead of running 3 Rhoda, I thought this was a better ratio. It's been working really well, and I personally really like the Lightsworn engine here. Once again, to help us get cards in the grave, we were playing Fool's Burial, but this lets us put any monster instead of just level 4 or lower, so we can put the correct vampires. Number 1 card you do end up sending a lot is Vampire Lord, just because he's a really good card to use from the grave. He's not as helpful in your hand, but I have summoned him occasionally. But it is much preferred just to send him with Foolish and such. We're playing 1 Soul Charge because pull back our vampires, take control. Using our XYZ and such where we can't attack anyways, it just lets us gain back a huge advantage, as well as Raigeki to take away our opponent's advantage just so we can attack directly for games. This deck has OTK potential and such that you just can't get from some decks, and it does a really decent job. And the only traps we are running is 2 copies of Vampire Takeover. I was considering 3, but 2 has been working really well. If you have a vampire, or not vampire, if you just have a zombie out and you have no field spell, you can flip this up, put a field spell in there, and then send a vampire to your graveyard, I think it is. Let's see. I'll read it exactly. If you have no card in your field card zone, all face-up monsters you control, at least 1 are zombie type, activate 1 from your deck, then you can special summon a vampire from your deck, or from your graveyard and face-up defense. What really happens here is, it basically lets you send a card because of just how really perfect it all, like a lot of the combos I get off is when they attack my monster, I can flip this up, get the field spell. It gives them a boost, as well as it also lets you send a card to the grave if they destroy your... what's-his-face, the Vampire Sorcerer. Then you can pop a card, as well as special summon vampires from your graveyard using this card, which is just really, really nice little combos you can do. And this card's a lot better after playing it for a while, so there we go. Moving on to the extra deck. The main cards you have to run are these rank 5s and this other card, but a lot of the cards are optional. So without further ado, we'll go into the extra. We have 3 copies of the Bram. He has 2 level 5 zombies, so you can't use the artifacts to make him, but you could use artifacts to make the other XYZs. Its effect is detach material. You can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your side of the field. Only that monster can attack this turn for the rest of the turn. So, if you attack with everything, you can do this main phase 2, take your opponent's monster, summon it to your side. As well as, if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect or in any way, during the end phase, or during your next standby phase, during the next standby phase, it summons itself. So, that is really, 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 really good. It really, really helps because it lets you keep a monster on the field. And the reason why we are playing why that effect's really good is Gaia Dragon, the Thunder Charger. I would suggest playing 3. I only have 2 currently. I'd like to get my hands on a 3rd, but it doesn't really matter because you can generally win before you'd need the 3rd. But with Vampire, when he does die, if your opponent starts killing with the card effect, he will almost always come back. And then you can just throw this card on top of him, and you have a monster, because he can't change his battle position during that turn that he's resummoned. So it lets you throw this material on top of him, and then attack for piercing for 26, which is just really, really good for the deck, and it really helps with how it's supposed to work. For the next XYZs we're running 2 copies of Adreus. One of the costs of the dragons, or one of the costs of the vampires, is they have to be used for dark XYZs, except for Vampire Lord, which is why artifacts work with him, is you can summon others. But Adreus is another really key card because he lets you pop face-up cards that are problematic, and so this is why it's okay that we're only running like the 5 different kinds of MST and such, and we can decide more if we need to, but this really helps with problematic cards on the field already. And then the last rank 5 we are running is 2 copies of Shark Fortress. Shark Fortress allows us to attack twice, and it just allows us to OTK because there are situations with extra Mezukis, extra setup after like 1 or 2 turns of really, really luck. You can explode on the opponent really fast in a way that they don't expect at all. So this card plus Adreus and such, or just this card plus Brahms that don't go away, it allows you to do some really, really good OTKs. Those are the rank 5s and technically rank 7, I guess, that we run. We're moving on to 4s and lower. We are running 1 Lavalval Chain. This is the card I make the most. Lavalval Chain allows us to send to the graveyard just any kind of monster that we really want there. It's really, really good because it just keeps our graveyard going, flowing, everything beautiful, and it lets us use our Lightsworns along with just Mezuki and stuff. Send Mezuki to the grave by detaching, and then just send another monster to the grave to summon off Mezuki, this is just a key combo piece. We're running Cowboy, Shark Knight, Abyss Dweller, and Ragnazero to fight just different decks. Abyss Dweller plus like a Raigeki just shuts down. It just destroys Burning Abyss. They can't get around the mine as they go there. And Ragnazero just really is good against Cleafort, but that's just kind of the mains. And the last card we're running is Leviair because we have Mathematicians, and sometimes people don't kill them. It allows us to get back our copies of Mezuki that are banished. You can run the spell card that just targets 3 and brings them back to your grave, but that's not like that important. Sorry about that door out there. I live in a dorm, so. But this card is decent in the deck, and you really have all the extra deck space in the world. You can run any synchros you want, like Colossal Fighter, if you want to just have a monster that can resummon himself. I mean, there are a million synchros you can run because you have 5s, you have 3s, you have 4s, you can all synchro with, so. That is the deck. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and as always, have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.